The Sports Shuffle. I am flying Ryan goes along with.
Tampa Motor Joel Verlin, as that Monday night doubleheader definitely had the stud and the dud.
It was a game and then another game, which for people on the East Coast is not ideal. I was up for both of them and then had to drive an hour to work at like 6 in the morning. So
And
not
of
ideal.
course, that last play I was reading online that the Herbert fumble cost something like 229 teams their week.
Nice. Yeah. Second week in a row, I've had a sub quarter of a point loss in the league. So that's fun. Fantasy football is fun, but did rebound in the leagues that matter the most. Obviously, there were some problems last week due to some big time injuries.
Yeah, that all of a sudden, if you've been thinking, well, hey, at least my quarterback is okay. That's my teammate. That's my quarterback. But yeah, hold the phone, not so much. As of course, starting off, we got Joe Burrow, who's probably, as we were talking before you pressed the start button, probably done for the season with that toe injury that everyone was initially thinking it was going to be a little while. Then it's 3 months. Now we might be out for the season.
Yeah, I mean, 3 months is essentially the regular season at this point. That would bring it back week 14, 15, 16. Obviously, we only have 18 weeks in the season. So there's only so far you could go. But for fantasy purposes, Joel and I were talking about this before. What do you do? Unless you've got a couple of IR spots, um, I think you just drop him outright. Like he's going to go to the waivers. No one's going to pick him up right away, most likely. And if he comes back in week 14 or 15, he's coming back if you make your fantasy playoffs in the beginning of the fantasy playoffs. I don't know if you want a guy coming off a surgically repaired foot, which, by the way, nobody has returned in the same season from this injury ever. But if he does come back, he's going to be coming back not really in practice, not really ready to go. They're not going to put him on IR because by the playoffs, should they make the playoffs,
Playoffs?
good enough to go. But for the long term prospects of this season for fantasy, I think he is cuttable at this point. What that's going to do to Jamar Chase, T. Higgins remains to be seen. Jamar Chase has played with Browning in the past and been decent to good. He looked very good with Browning in that game against
Bit of
Jacksonville,
a
but it
tough
was
schedule coming up
Jacksonville.
for Browning, though. A heck of a baptism by fire here for this year.
Yeah, Minnesota this week, and that's a very good defense, even though the offense is also dealing with an injured quarterback and J.J. McCarthy with a sprained ankle out 2 to 4 weeks. Uh, unfortunately, Jaden Daniels with a knee injury is iffy
Wha-
for this week.
uh, Then you got
Yeah, with a
Justin.
knee
Then you have Justin Fields, who's has been
already
ruled
been ruled
out.
out.
So it's going to be Tyrod Taylor going against the Buccos this week.
Yeah, this is probably a very good week to be a member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You're not getting that dual threat quarterback. I mean, Tyrod Taylor is, but he's not Justin Fields level. So I think it's probably a good opportunity there for them to get hopefully an easy win against the Jets. Um, it's just real tough right now with the injuries, and there's a few
I've
more
never
out
been
there.
more glad to have gotten Daniel Jones in the draft for the 16 team league that I thought was going to have such a great year with Joe Burrow at quarterback.
Yeah, Daniel freaking Jones. We'll get to it more in the recap, but I don't think he is the MVP of the league,
And
but
they're calling him now Indiana Jones.
yeah, Indiana Jones, he was now 2-0, even though there was some controversy on that last play. We'll get to all of that here in a little bit. But fortunately, the injury bug really was contained to the quarterback position. So we haven't had a whole lot of high profile wide receiver tight end injuries. We had Kittle and Worthy in week one.
Yet.
Um, Yet it will come. 100% sure it will come at some point in the next few weeks that we will start seeing the big name players. Some of them have injuries, but so far So good. Before we get to our recaps, I mentioned after week 1, Joel and I had our probably best combined pick'em record of all time, with me going 13-3, Joel going 12-4, and we follow that up by doing exactly the same thing. I went
My
13-3.
Saints pick almost that close to coming through. It's like,
Yeah, and Joel taking the Saints is the reason he was 12-4. We agreed on everything else. It seemed like a pretty straightforward week. This week, I'm looking at the games already. I'm seeing games like Houston at Jacksonville. Jacksonville looked pretty good offensively. That Houston offensive line is a disaster. Cincinnati, Minnesota, it's 2 backup quarterbacks. Who are you taking on that one? The Rams
Carson
were one of the
Wentz,
best teams.
Jake Browning game.
Rams were one of the closest teams knocking off Philly in the playoff run, and Philly hasn't looked convincing yet. Denver and the Chargers. You've got New Orleans and Seattle. Arizona, San Francisco is interesting with Mac Jones going to get another start, it looks like.
Can you imagine? Imagine KC 0-3. Can you just imagine?
The only thing keeping me and my Dolphins sane, and this is their new black jersey they'll wear Monday Night Football in week 4 against the Jets, is that we do have the same record as the defending AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs. So if they go 0-3, we're playing Buffalo tomorrow night on Thursday Night Football. We'll do our picks in a little bit, and don't let the attire fool you. I will use my brain, not my heart, on this pick.
You must be talking about a certain game on Thursday night.
Yeah, definitely not. I think my goal for this season is to try and get to 200 pick'em wins, because that's very hard to do. I think the closest we got, including like the playoffs, was like 188 between us, was the closest either of us got. 200 means I think you miss 85 all year, which NFL's a chaotic place. Yeah, 85 all year. So if you get to 200 pick'ems correct, you've done really, really well for yourself. So let's minimize the Excel so I can see I'm on Chrome. So I have to remember not to hit the wrong tab, because thank God technology. We were supposed to start about 45 minutes ago, and then my computer decided I didn't want to work on something. Like, I usually use Microsoft Edge.
You need a technical difficulty screen with like the elevator music in the background.
Yeah, like I usually use Microsoft Edge for this, because I had some problems with Chrome not working, especially with this. I couldn't hear Joel. Joel couldn't hear me. We had all these technical problems that we didn't have on Edge. So I got used to using Edge. So I try to open up Edge. It pops up with a blank white screen and goes down. So I'm like, all right, maybe I just need to restart the computer. It's been a minute since I've done that anyways. Restart the computer. All of a sudden it's trying to go through disks and I'm like, no, let me try and restart this and skip that. Edge still not working. So we're up and we're running on Chrome, which is fine, but it's a little different
when you need the Jeopardy music in the background, right?
Yeah, it kind of made me want to have my Tua got drafted the Dolphins reaction of hitting a bottle of whiskey, but that's a different thing. And thank God Justin Herbert looks so terrible this season, so we can rationalize picking Tua ahead of him. Anyways, let's go to the games. We're not going to go.
That must be from an alternate universe or something.
Yeah. Especially when Tua admits he can't do half what Josh Allen can do. And anyways, we're going to go. Not going to talk too much about the Thursday night game. We already covered that one.
We don't need to talk any more Thursday night football last week.
Packers 27, Washington 18. Packers defense looks great. Injury to Jaden Reed. We didn't really mention it in the injury update earlier, but probably the biggest injury at the wide receiver position last week that I can think of off the top of my head. So
yeah,
that should tell you it's not a major one.
And he posted a video, I think, from his hospital bed saying they're going to the Super Bowl. So
I can't argue against that theory. I think there's 4 teams right now you look at and go, they make the most sense to go to the Super Bowl. It would be
Packers, yeah,
Baltimore and Buffalo in the AFC, and the Packers and the Eagles in the NFC. And then you've got your Chiefs, so they can get it going. You've got maybe the Lions get it going. They look really good. Like the Bucks are a dark horse kind of team.
They can remain healthy.
Well, you got to think they're getting worse back. They're going to get Goedeke back at some point, hopefully. They did lose a defensive player, though.
Yeah, I know. You're saying that. You don't like seeing that one bit.
Yeah. So, anyways, let's go to the rest of the game. So, again, we've already covered Thursday night. Packers 27, Commanders 18.
Of those same Ravens.
Moving on to the Ravens, who have put 40 points up both weeks of the season and are 1-1 after they pound the Browns 41-17. Lamar Jackson was fantastic, but if you have Derrick Henry on your team,
Woo-hoo.
whoo, doggy, he
Sad
hurt you
noises.
this week. Fortunately, in a league where I lost last week, when I travel up north to do our live draft, I was playing against Allen and Henry, the same combination week one that dominated, put this team in first place, absolutely crushed them. Henry just, I think, 2 points on the day, didn't get anything going. There was a lot of smack talk from the Browns saying he's not hard to stop, he's not hard to tackle. And, well, they were right. The problem is Lamar Jackson and the rest of that team still played a fantastic game and just wiped the floor with the Browns. Quinshon Judkins had a pretty good day in his first ever start. We saw him get involved about a three-way split in week number one. I think Jerome Ford's going to get phased out of that offense pretty quickly, as he will be the number 3 running back on that roster. But the Ravens looked what we expect the Ravens to look like. The Browns look like what we expect the Browns to look like. Again, last week the picks were pretty straightforward in a lot of the games, and this was one of the most obvious picks of the week.
Yeah, because Derrick Henry scored, as you ended up mentioning, just 2.3 PPR points against Cleveland. His lowest output as a Baltimore Raven. He scored below 10 PPR points just once last year, going outside from Derrick Henry. How about Zay Flowers has seen the largest share of 47 and 39 over the first 2 weeks of the season, and back to Henry, he just wasn't the focal point. Jackson himself was just
Yeah.
23 yards for Derrick Henry. Hang in there, owners. He'll bounce back as D Hop. How about him? He was definitely the best wide receiver with the TD. Flowers still had some good PPR potential, however.
Yeah, it was really good for most of the Ravens. If it wasn't Mark Andrews and Derrick Henry, people that historically you would have had to rely on, it was it was a pretty good day. D Hop looking like prime D Hop from about 5-6 years ago is really scary for the rest of the AFC and the NFL at large.
And nobody stupidly tried to pat anybody on the helmet.
Yes, fortunately. Next up, one of the more entertaining games of the day, the back and forth nature, unfortunately, was mired by the Joe Burrow injury
Yeah,
as he goes out in the
certainly an
second quarter
outrage.
with a grade 3 turf toe injury, which a turf toe is a torn set of ligaments in the toe. Again, he is having surgery. He'll be out at least a minimum of 3 months, likely longer. But he left the game. The Bengals were down 7. They win the game 31-27 over the Jaguars. The Jaguars looked pretty good on the ground with Travis Etienne and Bashal Tutin carrying the load. Little bit of controversy for the Jags, though, with Brian Thomas Jr. not having a great game, and then coming out in the post game that he's been dealing with a wrist injury that was not on the injury report. So there's been a little bit of controversy around that move. We saw Tyreek Hill last year with a wrist injury, and it seemed to have negatively affected him. Hopefully, it's not going to be the case with Brian Thomas Jr., but Parker Washington stepped up in that game. And then Jamar Chase just absolutely went ballistic. He was having a good game with Joe Burrow, and it got better with Browning. Hopefully for us who went with the Burrow Chase stack or just have Chase alone in fantasy, the loss of Joe Burrow is not going to crush that value you got for him when you drafted him. If he can play like he did the duration of the game with Browning, he's going to be just fine for fantasy. I do think Higgins and Chase Brown take a hit because this offense is probably going to be a little less explosive. Browning's not going to be able to support everybody that Joe Burrow would. So we'll see what it means for Higgins. I don't think you worry too much about Chase. And then Chase Brown, if that offense takes a step back, the running game is not great. He's always had his value in the passing game. That'll be very interesting going forward. But the Bengals, they start 2-0, but at what cost?
Yeah, and also you have for the Jags, Travis Hunter route participation rate in week 1, 82%. Travis Hunter route participation rate in week 2, 60%. Target shares in week 1, 28. Target shares in week 2, 15%. And also you have to look without Tank Bigsby, you've got Tootin operated as Jacksonville's number 1 back as he played 7 more snaps than LaQuint Allen.
Well, Etienne was still the number 1. Etienne dominated this game. He was a very, very good. Trust me, I got him in fantasy. He was awesome once again. Travis Etienne, currently the RB7. He got 17.4 and a half point PPR last week.
And,
He did play ahead of him, and then in regards to the Hunter numbers going down, the Jacksonville Jaguars did lose a corner, forcing Hunter to play more defense, and you saw him off the field on the offensive side just a little bit more. Something to keep in mind going forward.
And for your amusing moment, somebody threw a object onto the field during the Bengals Jaguars game that of an adult nature that CBS mistook it for a flag on the field.
Yes, it was a bright yellow
We're
male.
we're trying to keep it
phallic.
clean, folks.
Yeah, it was a.
As they say in Europe, Peggy 18.
Yes, it was a rubberized male part in bright yellow that
Hey,
on a touchdown, CBS threw the flag up and then realized, oh, wait, that is not a flag. That is something much different.
Yeah, that would be the Tom Grossi videos. Flag?
Flag? Not flag. Definitely not flag. Anyways, next up, one of the
Moving on.
surprisingly high-scoring, entertaining games. This one exploded in the fourth. Cowboys beating the Giants 40-37 in overtime. Giants had this one, then Dallas took the lead, then Giants took the lead again, then Brandon Aubrey a 64-yard field goal at the end of regulation. Couple back and forth punts, and then followed by a Russell Wilson pick who had his best game in probably 5 years in this one. 450 yards and 3 touchdowns. Wan'Dale Robinson was amazing. Malik Neighbors, no surprise, had a big game in this one. CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens were good as well. Javonte Williams still looking good. Dak Prescott looked better than he did in week number 1. But a Brandon Aubrey field goal at the end of overtime gets them the win. They move to 1-1. For the Cowboys, that defense is starting to look like one in fantasy. If you are streaming, you might want to target this week. That would mean Caleb Williams and the Bears. So maybe not this week because Caleb Williams and the Bears look god awful. But the Cowboys move to 1-1. And if you're a Giants fan, you see this offense really show up and the defense lets you down. You've got a better defense.
Actually cooked.
Yeah, Russ looked very, very good. I think it pushes back the Jackson Dart era of at least a couple more weeks. If he can play like that, the Giants will get some wins they don't necessarily deserve. On paper, looking at who they're playing right now, they've one of the I think they have the hardest schedule in football as well. But they went on the road, stood toe-to-toe with Dallas, and just came up a little short as Dallas moves to 1-1.
Tossing out 2 names for good reasons and a name for a bad reason is we'll start off with Jake Ferguson, has seen target shares of 18 and 23% respectively over his first 2 games. He has 18 targets to George Pickens 13.
Yeah, he hasn't gotten a touchdown. He hasn't gotten the yards or receptions. George Pickens did get a late, long touchdown, which salvaged a good fantasy day. You have to remember George Pickens has only been with his team for a few months, only a couple of games. He's still getting in the rhythm with Dak, and I think this week went a long way. But if you've got him in fantasy and you feel like he's not quite the right piece, it may be a good opportunity to trade him on the potential of being a high week. But next week they're playing the Bears. The Bears give up, and they made J.J. McCarthy look great, and he did not look great in week number 1. So I think you can go with George Pickens for a little bit longer, but Ferguson, I think at the tight end position is at least streamable. If he's your number 1, then you're not too bad off.
Second name for a good reason if you're keeping him. How about Cam Skattebo?
Yeah, Cam Skattebo. 11 carries, 45 yards, got a touchdown, got involved in the passing game. Very, very physical player. He was on par with Tyrone Tracy in attempts, which we didn't see in week number 1. I think the assumption a lot of people had in draft season was that eventually Skattebo would take over. And if he does take over, Tyrone Tracy is not going to be very fantasy relevant for a while. I don't think you put him in your lineups quite yet. You keep him in mind. But I think there's an argument to be made that so far he might be the most impressive rookie running back through 2 weeks. And second place might actually be Quinshon Judkins, who only played in week number 2. The rest of them have been a little slow off the mark so far.
And for the worst player of the game award goes to James Hudson. Ready for this one, Ryan?
Oh, I know these
Giants' first drive, first drive. 4 penalties taken for a total loss of 40 yards, 1 sack. That might have been one of the worst sequences probably you've seen from a football player ever. And yeah, apparently the person who was watching this said, broadcast just said, it's the first time this century a
Yeah.
player has been called for 4 penalties in the same flippin' drive.
And then he was benched. As you would
And not
expect.
happy about it.
Well, no, but can you blame them? Like, come on. Yeah, that's best of luck to him going forward, but that's not going to bode well for the rest of his season if he keeps doing stuff like that. His leash is only going to get shorter. He's got to have a few very good, clean weeks for him to get some of that trust back.
And
Next up,
Giants and KC headed your way. Ooh, boy.
is there an upset brewing?
Speaking of a
We'll
game
pick it
that
another time.
speaking of a game that wasn't an upset,
Yes, the return of Ben Johnson to Detroit, and well, that was a game. The Bears put up 21 and got just absolutely decimated, 52 to 21. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 3 touchdowns. You had Jameson Williams get a touchdown. You had Brock, the other tight end, not Laporta, get a touchdown. Both
bad.
Montgomery and Gibbs. You looked at this offense
Bears
that
real
looked
bad.
so bad. You looked at this offense looked so bad in week 1 against the Packers.
How bad were they?
And then you see how good they look against the Bears. And my first reaction was, oh, that Packers defense is real, real good. Yeah, the Lions look like the Lions. And that's what we were hoping to see this year. We were a little worried after week 1 with the Packers, but that Packers defense just looks like it is actually going to be as good as we expected. Caleb Williams, we'll talk more about in my final thought because his numbers are interesting to start the season.
I saw a prediction. I think it was from the Sporting News. You have to wonder what this person was smoking when they made it, where the Packers were in last place and the Bears were in second place.
No. Bears. I think they'll be last place in the division, but the Vikings are not giving me a lot of belief in them.
And we go to South Beach Hard Rock. Should call it Hard Knocks.
Yeah. Patriots win 33-27 over the Dolphins. A pretty competitive game throughout. Achane looked better. Tyreek had his first over 30-yard reception in over a year. The Dolphins looked considerably better on the offensive side. That defense is going to be a problem all season long. They just do not have the pieces. But we saw the Patriots offense look interesting. Drake May looked very, very good, but we saw Ramondre Stevenson take control of the situation in the backfield, keep Trevion Henderson at bay. The expectation is eventually Henderson's going to take over. Not yet. Keyshawn Boutte with a touchdown, but the Patriots offense looked much better than they did week 1. Fortunately, the Dolphins did look better than they looked in week 1. Unfortunately, that means they're going into Thursday Night Football against the Bills at 0-2. And the Bills look like absolute world beaters. So Thursday Night Football might not be fun for me.
You know how it's going in the Dolphins when they have a Fire Greer, Fire McDaniel banner being flown over Hard Rock Stadium that morning before the game. That pretty much tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah. I think they should probably both go at some point. I don't think you fire them after week 2. But the people that were responsible for Tua staying around, who has been a colossal miss compared to, we can look at Drake May, we can look at Josh Allen in the division, but namely Justin Herbert with the Chargers, who, yeah, they have the same number of playoff wins, but one definitely looks like a competent NFL quarterback. The other one looks like he should be selling corn dogs on the beach at a surf shop in Hawaii or something, because he just does not have it. But hey, it's only $250 million or so.
Only.
Yeah, Patriots go to 1-1. Dolphins to 0-2, and they are even with the Jets that we'll get to shortly.
We'll get back to Coach McDaniels. One of my final thoughts.
Yeah, the early year McDaniels was fun. It was funny. Now it's getting tired and old, and it's just not not landing. I'm in the point now where I'm just rooting against the Steelers so they fire Mike Tomlin and maybe we can hire a competent head coach.
Ooh,
Anyways,
that's
let's go
better.
on to Let's go on to the next one. San Francisco winning with Mac
Almost,
Jones
almost
26-20
my bold
win.
prediction came true.
Yeah,
So close.
26-21 over the Saints. The Saints have looked average through 2 weeks, which
Hey, for what they were projected, average is good.
average. I'd take average from Miami. They haven't looked average through 2 weeks. Their defense has looked abysmal. But the Saints, I mean, the 49ers are 2-0. The Cardinals are 2-0. They've played the Saints 2 weeks and they played them tight. The Saints might not be as bad as we thought. I don't think they're by any means a playoff team, but they've been pleasantly surprised with the play of Spencer Rattler, which we'll talk more about in the final thought. And it's just they're close, which is interesting. Christian McCaffrey's still great. Juwan Jennings had a very good week for the 49ers.
Yeah,
Mac Jones, 3 touchdowns.
he out targeted Pearsall 10-6.
Yeah, both of them were decent. Jennings was good. And then for the Saints, it's really just Kamara and what happens with Olave and Rashid Shaheed. But it's not consistent with them yet. I think you're encouraged, though. If you've seen the Saints through 2 weeks, the worst thing that you've seen is those jerseys in week 1, and the rest of the play's been okay, which, again, is a far step better than we thought they would be.
Olave's target shares this season so far 31.7 and 29.4. And just in, Alvin Kamara is pretty good.
Yeah, he's 30. So running back wise, fantasy wise, you got to think the edge is coming, the cliff is coming, but we'll move on. The Bills paid James Cook in the offseason, and it looked like a very good decision on Sunday as he dominated this game. He is right now the number 1 running back in fantasy through 2 weeks. The Bills, 30-10 win over the Jets, and the game wasn't even that close. The Jets tried to break Josh Allen's nose.
And he
really slow him down.
Put the helmet back on, stuck gauze up his nose, and he just went right back in.
I am inevitable, he says, as he continues to mercilessly tear down the AFC East and the Jets in general. Nothing in this game looked good for the Jets. Tyrod Taylor was in when they got their touchdown. It was pure garbage time. The Jets looked every bit as bad as they looked as good in week 1. Like, we were surprised how good the Jets looked in week 1. I think we were surprised with how bad they looked in week number 2. The Bills just dominated this game. The defense was oppressive on the Jets offense, and then pretty much everybody expected to be decent was decent or good. So Josh Allen, a little disappointing because they just didn't need him.
Yeah, Keon Coleman probably disappointed you a little bit. 11 targets, 24% target share for week 1. And week 2, 3 targets on a 12% target share. Breece Hall played 30 offensive snaps to Braylon Allen's 9 in week 2, as opposed to 37 versus 20 in week number 1.
Yeah. Yeah, Breece is still the number 1, but unless they're facing a very bad defense, it looks like Pittsburgh might be. We'll get to that game here in a second. I don't think I think we were right on Breece the first one, and week 1 made people second guess that. But I think Breece Hall is not good with the Jets at the very least. Moving on to the Steelers, losing to the Seahawks 31-17.
Touchdowns that you probably will remember this year.
Yeah, Caleb Johnson. He is no longer returning kicks because he forgot that on a kickoff, you don't have to touch the ball for it to be live. Essentially, it was a 74-yard onside kick that was recovered in the end zone because he thought, I don't have to touch it. I didn't touch it, so they can't play it. No, the kickoff is live. That's why you can do the onside kick. You can't do an onside punt. The kickoff is live. If you do not have the ball, the other team can get it. Maybe he thought it was going to go out of the back of the end zone, and it very nearly did. But I know they lost by 2 touchdowns, but that's what broke the game wide open. They were back and forth, and all of a sudden they were down 14 really, really fast after that play. And Ken Walker, though, looked very good for the Seahawks, which is good to see him come back. JSN was still very, very good. DK Metcalf not getting the targets we were expecting everybody thought he was going to be hyper targeted. And Jalen Warren for the Steelers has been very good at running back, which hurts. A lot of people went after Caleb Johnson in drafts, including myself in some places. Unfortunately, not in a I have to start him role. Jalen Warren and Caleb Johnson's mistakes are really, really making Caleb Johnson taking any kind of significant role this year and putting it on the back burner for sure.
Yeah, because Zach Charbonnet played 13 more snaps than Kenneth Walker.
10 carries for 15 yards. One of the very few stat lines I have burned into my brain.
Yeah, and Walker, however, definitely was the only one of the two players with a target, and he definitely totaled 116 as opposed to Charbonnet's 10. Ouch.
Yeah, I really hope for the Seahawks' sake they learn from this and just say, okay, Walker's the starter.
And
he's going to get more of the work.
Is JSN pretty much a plug and play, averaging about 19 PPR points per game?
Yeah, absolutely. He is one of the most heavily targeted players in the league, if not the most heavily targeted player in the league right now through 2 weeks. And that offense hasn't been fantastic, but it hasn't been terrible either. You get 40+% of the targets most weeks, you're going to be very, very good if you can catch the ball, and he definitely can do that. So you're going to play him every week. You've got him.
And then we go to Tennessee, where everybody has burned into their retina. Puka Nacua taking that handoff 25 yards for a touchdown. Oh, the way.
Yeah, Kyren Williams, though, not very efficient, not getting the touchdown. I went to Blake Corum. We did see Puka Nacua get a rushing touchdown from basically midfield. Devontae Adams looked very, very good. The Rams offense in general looked very, very good. The Titans, they need to get some pieces for Cam Ward around him to make this team better because he looks like the real deal through 2 weeks. Yes, they've lost both games. Yes, the offense hasn't put up a lot of points, but you've seen the flashes of greatness that you want to see from a rookie.
For a second fantasy week again.
Yeah, he's not. You don't want him in fantasy, but you've seen the big electric touchdown passes and crazy plays that he's been able to pull off through 2 weeks. We remember Bo Nix looked terrible through the first 4 weeks last year. He ended up being one of the best rookies last season. Give him some time to mature, but you're seeing the flashes early. I think he's going to be the guy for Tennessee, but they just need so much around him.
Any concern for Tony Pollard early?
If you drafted Tony Pollard, you had to know he was going to be early touchdown dependent, and he was going to have to just dominate the workload, which right now he's doing. There's definitely concern with pretty much anybody on the Titans. I think Calvin Ridley's very, very concerning. Alec Ayamanor is probably the best wide receiver on that team. He's a rookie. He did have that first touchdown where he Cam Ward threw cross the field. Not what you're supposed to do, but it worked. There's a little bit of concern with Tony Pollard, but in the long run, he's still their number one. He's still their best asset on the ground. It's just how much are they going to be in the games where he can play a full 4 quarters, or how much is it going to be, okay, middle of the third, we got to start passing so much more, and he's only got a half to really make his mark.
And it's a good thing we don't have slots for coaches in fantasy because Sean McVay got injured.
Yeah, he hurt himself running down the sideline. Can't say I haven't hurt myself running in a straight line, but I mean, you're a head coach. You got to be better than that. Anyways, next up, the Cardinals, 27-22 win over the Panthers. That was, well, not that close for very long. It was 27-3. I remember actually getting up and marking it a win for both of us in our pick sheet. And then the Panthers just kept creeping back into it.
And you're kind of wondering, sweating a little bit, going, here we go again, just like week number uno.
Yeah, the Cardinals have whatever the opposite of the clutch gene is. They've got it looks like, as they've tried to give away 2 wins basically inside the 30 at the end of the game. They had the game in hand. Kyler Murray looked better. Marvin Harrison did not. The defense was good for the Cardinals, but really for the Panthers, you saw Chuba Hubbard be decent, more in the passing game. The tight ends, Tommy Tremble and Jatavion Sanders, seemed like they were the ones getting a lot of the work. And then Hunter Renfrow with, I think, 2 touchdowns late in that game to bring it close.
You have to mention Xavier Legette, who becomes first wide receiver in NFL history to record negative receiving yards on at least 8 targets.
Congratulations. You are a legend. in all the ways you don't want. But the Cardinals go to 2-0.
Yeah.
The Panthers fall to 0-2. I think we expected the Panthers to be a bad team, but they've shown some fight this week against a team that's so far playing pretty well. Eventually, they're going to bite a good team. It's just a matter of time.
And we go to dun 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 dun.
Indiana, Daniel Jones. Man, who saw this coming when they named him the starter? Obviously, he was doing this in practice, and the coaches knew this was going to be the guy they needed. The Colts beat the Broncos 29-28 on a controversial last-second field goal that was missed, flag thrown for leverage, move them 15-yard closer, and they hit it. Flag. The Broncos looked much better in the first half than the second. Troy Franklin had his biggest game of his career. He was, of course, the guy who had the only touchdown in the playoff game against the Bills. J.K. Dobbins is dominating the snap share. So those of us who have R.J. Harvey, it's going to take it some time or maybe more likely an injury. Unfortunately, if you had Courtland Sutton, he disappeared this week. And it looks like Evan Ingram might not be the guy, but Bo Nix was pretty solid in a recovery effort after week 1 where he was just outright bad. The Broncos defense looked real sketchy.
Right there on the fantasy milk carton along with Sutton was Ingram.
Yeah, he might not be the guy there. Troutman had a touchdown this game, which is another tight end. Jonathan Taylor was fantastic this game. Daniel Jones, I think, has gotten himself into strong quarterback streaming for fantasy consideration, as I think he's a top 5 guy right now for fantasy purposes. And then you've got all the people looking for a tight end. So he's probably not on your waivers at this point because they should have run last night. But if he is and you're in need, you could do a lot worse. But the Colts, they look like the real deal. We saw them pound Miami, and we thought, is that Miami or is that the Colts? We expect high, good things out of the Denver Broncos. They came out and they just beat the Broncos at their own game. It's about the Dolphins isn't as bad as I thought it was because the Colts aren't a complete joke. But, yeah, we'll see. Next up, the Super Bowl rematch that was probably the biggest disappointment.
Arrowhead.
Yeah, the biggest disappointment of the week, I think, based on expectations. A 20-17 win for the Eagles over the Chiefs, who are now 0-2. The Eagles moved to 2-0. Time to panic for the Chiefs? Very possibly.
Yeah, because when you saw pretty much the entire offense was basically Mahomes.
Yeah, it's basically Mahomes. He wasn't even good. Like, he missed Dante Thornton on a long touchdown opportunity. Guy's wide open by 30 yards. Missed him. He did get him in like 3 plays later, so it kind of washes that away. But Travis Kelce looks lost out there. Hollywood Brown had a down game. Juju was awful.
Kelce was having temper tantrums like major.
Like, obviously, Engaged Life is not for him. But we saw this. Who was good in this game for the Chiefs that wasn't Mahomes, which is weird because if Mahomes is good, I guess Thornton with his long touchdown, but it's just a conundrum. We'll see what they do look like against the Giants on Sunday Night Football.
For the Kansas City Chiefs, you definitely have to give them like the Simpsons and Nelson.
Yeah, I don't think they need a lot of sympathy, but I am curious. I expected this to still be a playoff team, and yes, you've lost to the Chargers, who have looked great, and the Eagles, who are the reigning champs. So again, you play the Giants this week. Even if they win the game, similar to how Dallas did, where it's a close game or an overtime, that's not going to give you a lot of confidence about the Chiefs going forward. I'm not going to call time of death on the Chiefs yet. They're still a very good team. They're going to get Worthy back, it sounds like, this week. They're still 4 weeks back from getting Rashee Rice back. That's going to make that offense better.
Away from running into Worthy.
Yeah. So you've got those two coming back in the near future. If they can stay healthy, that's going to help their offense. But they have a couple more very tough games coming up in the near future. Like I said, I know they're playing the Giants on Sunday Night Football this week, but in week 4, they face Baltimore. It's in Kansas City, but they face Baltimore. Week number 5, they are playing at Jacksonville on Monday Night Football. Jacksonville doesn't look terrible so far. And then week number 6, they play in Kansas City again, but against Detroit. After that, that's when you get Rashee Rice back. But if they go 2-2, they're 2-4. They could be well behind the Chargers in that division, well behind the Broncos in that division by that point. And then you're battling with the wild card teams, and that's not a place we're used to seeing the Chiefs. So I think we want to see the Chiefs look better against the Giants and then accelerate going forward. But some very tough matchups coming up against teams that I don't think they'll be favored. I don't think they'll be favored against Detroit or Baltimore for sure.
And we go to
Minnesota as we try and pull up the scores from last week. There it is. Minnesota on Sunday Night Football looks lost. The Falcons win 22-6. Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier were running
Tyler Algier
crazy.
sniping yet another effing TD away from Bijan. Thank you, Growl.
That's going to happen.
Growl.
It's going to happen. Only touchdown in the game, too. 5 field goals for the Falcons and that touchdown. Jaden McCarthy didn't exit the game, but he did exit the game with an ankle injury coming out of the game, at least.
Yeah, you know,
Vikings look bad.
If you started Penix, you pretty much know he was. It wasn't all his fault that he had bad fantasy nights because pretty much
it was one of those things where you didn't need him. Just like Josh Allen. I don't think you're looking at Josh Allen week 2 being like, he only got 11 points, man. This guy's bad. It's like Michael Penix didn't have to do anything. Bijan was dominant.
Handball to Bijan. Have Bijan.
Handball or pass ball to Bijan. And Kyle Pitts was good too. But handball, throw ball to Bijan and Pitts. And you only had to throw the ball a handful of times. And it just wasn't
sort of like the one tempo ball, play that they do endlessly. Like,
yeah, it's one of those things where if you don't need the quarterback to go crazy for you to win the game, and he's in his 5th start ever. Yes, he's in his 2nd year, but it's only his 5th start. You don't put the ball in harm's way. You saw J.J. McCarthy try and force things, and it wasn't working for him. I think there's real concern with T.J. Hawkinson for fantasy, who not good through 2 weeks. Very, very bad through 2 weeks. Maybe that's a McCarthy thing. Maybe that's something else with his offense. We'll see what it looks like with Carson Wentz next week, but the Vikings look real bad. Makes us wonder what the Bears' week 1 loss really is, because the Vikings looked awful this week. Falcons and Vikings, though, both 1-1.
And we continue to say in the NFC South as we go to Texas.
Yeah, this was a very interesting game in the first half, then kind of slowed down in the fourth quarter, picked right back up. Bucs win 20-19 over the Texans. Both of these teams need offensive line help. The Bucs, though, will get it back when Tristan Wirfs and Gedeke come back. The Texans, though, they just don't have anything. Nick Chubb salvaged a good night with a 25-yard touchdown late to give the Texans the lead. Egbuka with another touchdown. He's kind of taken over the scoring role.
Everyone going, why did they pick a wide receiver? That's why.
Yeah, this is it's going to be interesting when Godwin comes back. What this mix looks like, because Mike Evans, not bad, but just not what you're expecting.
Even saw an Athletic headline, Evans hinting at retiring after 2025.
Yeah, he could be. If he gets 1,000 yards, he's got the record. He'd have 1,000 yards in every season of his career if he retired. I know he's in his early 30s, so maybe he doesn't want to play until he's broken down and not able to keep up. It could be the last ride for him. We don't know. It's still way too early to tell. But Bucky Irving is not slowing down anytime soon. He was fantastic in this game. Rashad White with the winning touchdown.
Yeah, absolutely got it done after Baker got it done himself, sealing the deal. Boom shakalaka, as the Bucs ended up winning after that doink, because he had to wonder, will that doink come back and bite him in the you-know-where? Then you had the DST trouble, and you almost had that kickoff return. It's like, oh, crap, or not. But then Baker just taking absolutely everything on his shoulders, getting it done, getting up from the sacks. We got to pay attention to his foot. I know, because they mentioned Baker's foot. Stay healthy. Baker's foot. We don't want any more quarterback injury. But just, What an unbelievable first game as the Texans are in the tight spot. They're 0-2, but none of those losses are divisional, so they're still in it. They can turn it around.
And it is still a very soft division. You look at the Jaguars, who are 1-1. You look at the Titans, who are also 0-2, and the Colts, who are 2-0. I don't know if everybody's bought into the Colts. I know some people have. I'm
No?
pretty close to it. Um, I think we think the Jags are going to be better than they were last year, but that could still be a middle of the pack kind of team as we lose Joel. They still have time to rally, but that offensive line is going to be a problem. Their defense looks very, very good, but that offensive line for Houston is going to be what holds them back, if anything does, from rebounding this season. Only time will
Sorry,
tell. As we move,
sound
yeah.
cut off.
Oh, okay. Oh, good. Yeah, we're on Chrome. We're gonna have problems. Anyways, to the last
So,
game, the Chargers.
where was I when I was I interrupted myself?
Oh, you finished what you were saying.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I heard everything. Technical difficulties are fun. Last but not least,
Mm-mm.
last but not least, the Chargers win 20-9 over the Raiders. Um,
And not a good game.
Not a great game. Quentin Johnson with a long touchdown and Keenan Allen with a touchdown. Omarion Hampton, the running back rookie for the Chargers. I think if you drafted him, you are starting to feel a little bit of the alarms that maybe he's not going to take this over as quickly as you thought. Even with Najee pretty much not playing in week one, he was only on the field for a handful of snaps and not getting a lot of work in the offseason because he had a firework blow up in his face and damaged his eye. He was better and had at least a 50-50 split of the backfield in week number 2. And then Hampton had a potentially very costly fumble in that game that was salvaged by the defense picking off.
Not feeling good about the Hampton hype to 2 weeks, hoping it gets a little bit
Now,
better.
there was something on the fantasy footballers that was talking about, well, Christian McCaffrey averaged like 2.3 yards a carry his first couple of games. JSN was nothing. A lot of rookies do take time. Nick Chubb, who was they take a little bit of time. So it's not panic time for Hampton. It's not panic time for Genty, who has not looked what they were drafting at number 6 at least. He hasn't looked worth that pick in the NFL yet. But it's not time to panic. The issue with Hampton is he's got competition in Najee that could bring him off the field. Whereas Genty, he's going to have to figure it out on the fly because they're not going to bring in Zamir White to take over the role. They'll spell him. Yeah, maybe he'll be the third down back because he's a better blocker. He's not going to take the role in full. Whereas Najee Harris is an established starter in the NFL. He was pretty good for Pittsburgh for a number of years. He could take over as the 1A for sure on this team. So we're seeing it with Ramondre Stevenson and TreVeyon Henderson in New England as well. Kind of seeing it with RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins, where the veteran just has it right now. The rookies will get integrated more. They'll get better, but both the rookies in this game did not look great. Brock Bowers is still fantastic. Jacoby Myers is still very good as well for the Raiders. But Geno Smith, 3 picks, not great.
And even with all the flap about Brady's advice, it didn't help the Raiders all that much.
Yeah, it's weird to see him affiliated with the Raiders. It just is, especially since that's how the whole Tom Brady thing started with the Tuck rule against the Raiders. Anyways, that is the review of week number 2. We will go to our picks for Thursday night football. I don't even know if I need to ask this, but we will anyways. Dolphins go to Buffalo to face the Bills. For the Dolphins, you're still going to play Devon Achane.
Bills win by 900.
Okay, yeah, I mean, the pick's going to be pretty obvious, I think. But you're still going to play Achane. You can still try and play Waddle and Hill. I don't think you want to go any further than that. For Buffalo, Josh Allen dismantles the Dolphins every game. The Dolphins' defense has never been this bad. If Josh Allen doesn't have a big game, it's because James Cook went absolutely ballistic. But you can play Kincaid, you can play Cook, you can play Coleman, you can play Shakir. You got to play Allen. You really got to play Cook too. But pretty much anybody in the Bills, including their defense, is sneaky this week. This could be really, really not fun for the guy wearing the Dolphins gear to watch. But for fantasy purposes, I do have a lot of Bills because I want to win fantasy more than I want to represent my team. So you're going to play your Bills, and as a Dolphins fan, I hope they win the game 40-37, just like the Dallas Cowboys beat the Giants. My expectation is going to be more like Buffalo 40, Dolphins 7. Neither one of us is going to pick against Buffalo. They look like arguably the best team in football, not named Green Bay, and the Dolphins don't. So, anyways, let's move on to final thoughts. And Joel's been teasing the McDaniels thing anyway, so it's a good segue. Joel, over to you.
Well, that's actually my third final thought.
Okay, well, we'll get to it.
Tease for tease, but we'll get through this quickly. Final thought number one: Baker showing how to win fourth quarter, 4-10, getting it done on his shoulders, then handing off the final touchdown to Rashad White. Boom shakalaka. Final thought number two: How about the Chiefs quickly becoming the villain here? Some of them were wearing free 4 shirts before the game started, and yeah, it was free Rashad from what happened. Yeah,
Yeah,
causing
Rasheed Rice, free the
uh
guy who
6-car
injured
pile
people.
up when a Lamborghini left the scene, and that's who they're wanting to free. So
I get he's on the same team, and I get you want to support your teammates, but I mean, he
yeah.
kind of is getting what he deserves.
Just sort of like the reason why everyone's flipping out about Brady putting on the headset. Not good optics.
No.
2A, how about staying with the Chiefs? How about Taylor Swift? Did you see the video about literally she had a barrier follow her around to get in so she wouldn't be photographed or have pictures taken of her? And crazy stuff like that can happen when you have her crazy money, and you just like,
Yeah, she is arguably the most recognizable and popular person on the planet. So if you don't want to interact with thousands of fans trying to go from the highest level of the stadium outside, yeah, you got to barricade. I mean, the other option is you just wait until everybody leaves. But when you're a billionaire and beyond just a billionaire, you can hire some people to hold a screen around you, no problem.
and the final one, the one that I know you probably seen the quote, heard the quote, but this has to be the dumbest sports quote of the entire freaking month, if not freaking year.
I'll
Mike
try and
McDaniel, Mike McDaniel in the presser following that horrific Dolphins game. Where to win games, you have to win the game, not lose the game. Honestly, that is how you lose the game. What?
So I'll try and explain this because I do understand it. He's basically saying when you're in a close game, you have to go out and win the game. You can't make the mistakes like Achan stepping on the line when he's got a sure touchdown if he doesn't do that. You can't have bad penalties. You can't have bad turnovers. You can't go out and lose the game like they've been doing, where you don't show up and you make the bad plays and you lose the game. You know how sometimes they'll say, "Oh, the other team didn't beat us; we beat ourselves." I think this is a really idiotic way of saying that, essentially, that they went out and beat themselves because they did. Tua was bad. We had bad mistakes. I
You
wish he didn't say it that way,
you
but I
have to
do think
agree.
it's a terrible
It sounds
sentence.
colossally dumb.
It's one of those things, like, if you think about it, you're like, oh, it makes sense. I get it. We went out and lost the game. We didn't win it.
Win the
Oh, the other team
game,
didn't beat us. We
you
beat
have to
ourselves.
not lose the games.
But yeah, the way he talks and the way he interacts with people,
This
he
this
probably
coming this coming from a guy who another press conference he said, "Yeah, it's a great day," and they're like, "Why is it a great day?" He said, "We're one day closer to death."
that is a
You said
very
that.
good. That is very
Okay.
This is a very good way to explain Dolphins fans right now. All right. My final thought is Caleb Williams might actually be just absolute garbage. And I say that because, well, the numbers kind of look real bad. Through 2 games, he's got 417 passing yards. That is 20th in the NFL. 1 interception, which isn't terrible. A QBR of 57.7, which is 17th in the NFL. And he's got 3 touchdowns, which is tied for 8th, but 20th in yards, 17th in rating. He is behind Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler has more yards, basically the same QBR, has not thrown an interception, and the same number of touchdowns. And his team is overachieving and competitive, where the Bears look embarrassing. And they got some good amount of garbage time in that game to rack up some yards and points against the Lions because, well, it was over. So Caleb Williams in his second year is on pace with late round pick from the same draft, Spencer Rattler. He's not on the same level as Drake May. He's not on the same level as Bo Nix. He's definitely not on the same level as Jaden Daniels. And I don't think he's on the level of Penix. Maybe he's on the level of McCarthy. We got to remember, McCarthy missed the entirety of his rookie season. I think the Bears colossally whiffed on this trade. The pick. They were good on the trade.
You're talking about the champions of the offseason,
Yes, the offseason champions, once again, 3-time reigning defending offseason champions. Probably looking at about a 5 or 6 win season, by the way things are going so far. And I would almost be surprised if at the end of the year, you don't have Bears fans looking at Caleb Williams like, you are not the guy. Kind of where Dolphins fans are with Tua. And yet, if he is passable as a decent quarterback, he'll probably hang around and possibly get a whole big contract in a couple of years. All right, so that is our time. We're going to try and keep the hot pick start going as long as we can. Both of us on Buffalo. I think we both feel very good about that. Unfortunately, as a Dolphins fan, I feel very good about my pick of Buffalo. But we'll keep that going. We'll be back in a couple of days on Friday, I believe, to cover the spanking.
You gotta get down on Friday.
Yeah, the spanking that's going to occur on Thursday Night Football, or the shock. I mean, I'm open to crazy things.
That'll be crazy if that does happen. But
yeah,
one question, to ask, not to extend things too much further, but Mike McDaniels seemed to be on a hot streak, and what happened that things just went off the rails in Miami?
He is too player friendly, lets them get away with things they shouldn't be getting away with. He believed that Tua could be the guy, and Tua had a couple flashes when he first got there that made people believe he might be the guy. They overpaid Tua, and he's got this weird shtick to him that everybody knows if you listen to his press conferences.
Yeah, like
he's a weird dude.
One day closer to death,
Yeah, he's a weird dude, and that can grate on people. Then you bring in people like Tyreek Hill that are extreme divas, and you just have a bad mix of people.
They went from Flores to the complete polar opposite McDaniel.
Yeah, and it worked at first because, well, we had Flores, and he was a hard ass. He was on top of us. He was burying us. Now you have this guy who lets us run free in the field, and we're like, yeah, this is fun. But now it's like, now they're undisciplined. Now they're not doing well. And the front office has just done a terrible job. Like, fire Chris Grier, I think, is more worthy than firing Mike McDaniels because he hasn't helped this team. He's gotten really, really poor results out of a lot of his draft picks. He's made some really interesting decisions on contracts and trades, and he mortgaged the future to try and get Tyreek Hill, which sure at the time maybe looked good, but it definitely is not working out that way. I think you'd be better off just saying, all right, this is to start over. And unfortunately, that means that the Dolphins will be bad for a number of years. And on that happy note,
can you feel the love?
I'm flying Ryan, and I'm not sad, along with
Tampa Motormouth Joel Verlin.
All right, we'll be back in a couple days to recap this game, pick the rest of week number 3, and enjoy football. We've got it. And with that, we go.